I was a surrogate for my sister 5 years ago. Now she's divorcing and wants to give the child back to me. She's 4 years old and calls me Auntie. /am ith asshole. I, 35F, need to preface this by saying I've rewritten this post about 15 times now. Every version sounds either too cold or too dramatic, and maybe that's because there's no way to tell this story that doesn't make someone look terrible. Including me. 3 days ago, my sister called me at 11:47 p.m. I remember the exact time because I just got my son, 2M, back to sleep after a nightmare, and I was finally crawling back into bed. My husband was already asleep. The phone lit up with her name, and I almost didn't answer. My sister doesn't call late unless something is wrong, and I was so tired. I answered anyway. I can't do this anymore. Her voice was flat. Empty. Not crying, not angry. Just, hello. She's yours. Come get her. For a second, I didn't understand. What? Who? What are you talking about? Lily. That's not her real name, but I need to protect her somehow. I can't do this. I can't be her mother. I never could. You need to come get her. My blood went cold. That's not. You can't just. If you don't take her, I'm calling CPS in the morning and telling them I can't care for her anymore. They'll put her in foster care. Is that what you want? I couldn't breathe. My husband stirred next to me, mumbling something, and I slipped out of bed and into the hallway, pressing my back against the wall like it could hold me up. You can't be serious, I whispered. She's 4 years old. She's your daughter. My sister laughed. It was the worst sound I've ever heard. Is she? Is she really? Because I've spent 4 years trying to feel like her mother, and I can't. I look at her and I feel nothing. I've been pretending this whole time, and I can't pretend anymore. Mark left. He's gone. And now it's just me and her in this house, and I can't do it. I can't. Where is she right now? I asked. Sleeping. She doesn't know anything's wrong. She thinks Daddy's on a business trip. Another hollow laugh. I've been lying to her for 2 months. I spent the next hour on the phone with my sister, trying to talk her down, trying to understand what was happening, trying to figure out if this was real or if she was just having a breakdown moment that would pass. By the end, I wasn't sure of anything except that my sister was genuinely, deeply unwell, and that somewhere in her house, a little girl was sleeping peacefully, unaware that her entire world was about to collapse. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my living room in the dark, and I thought about the first time I held that little girl. Update 1. The Surrogacy, background. I need to explain how we got here, because none of this makes sense without context. 5 years ago, my sister and her husband had been trying to conceive for almost 3 years. IVF had failed twice. My sister was diagnosed with a uterine condition that made carrying a pregnancy nearly impossible, though her eggs were healthy. They were devastated. My sister had wanted to be a mother her entire life. She was the one who played house as a kid, who babysat every neighbor's child, who talked about baby names when we were teenagers. Motherhood wasn't just something she wanted, it was the core of her identity. I was 30, unmarried, healthy, and I loved my sister more than anyone in the world. When she asked me, through tears, apologizing before the words even came out, if I would consider being their gestational carrier, I said yes almost immediately. Looking back, I should have thought about it longer. I should have gone to therapy first. I should have asked more questions. But my sister was in pain, and I could fix it. That felt like enough. We did everything by the book. Lawyers, contracts, psychological evaluations, medical screenings. My sister's eggs, her husband's sperm, my uterus. I would carry their baby, and then I would hand that baby over, and everyone would be happy. The pregnancy was hard. I won't lie about that. Morning sickness that lasted 5 months. Gestational diabetes. Preeclampsia at the end that put me in the hospital for a week. But I kept telling myself it was worth it. I was giving my sister the greatest gift anyone could give. And then she was born. I carried her for 9 months. I felt her kick. I heard her first cry. Then I handed her to my sister and pretended I was just the vessel. That's what I told myself. That's what everyone told me. You're giving them a gift. You're so selfless. She's not your baby, she's theirs. But here's the thing nobody tells you about surrogacy. Your body doesn't know it's not your baby. The hormones don't care about legal documents. When they placed her on my chest for those first few seconds, because they did, just for a moment, before handing her to my sister, my entire being screamed mine. I handed her over anyway. I signed the papers. I smiled in the hospital photos. And then I went home to my empty apartment and cried for 3 days straight. My sister says she can't love her. How do you not love your own child? But then, how do I explain the relief I felt when I handed her over? Because there was relief. Mixed with the grief, tangled up with the hormones and the exhaustion and the love, there was relief. I wasn't ready to be a mother. I didn't want to be a mother. Not then. I wanted to give my sister this gift and then go back to my life. And I did. I got therapy. I processed my feelings. I watched my niece grow up from a comfortable distance, birthday parties, holidays, the occasional weekend visit. She called me auntie. I bought her toys and took her to the zoo and then went home to my quiet apartment. 3 years ago, I met my husband. 2 years ago, we got married. 18 months ago, we had our son. I finally had the life I wanted, on my own terms, when I was ready. I thought the surrogacy chapter was closed. I thought I'd done my part and moved on. I was wrong. Update 2. The marriage collapse. I need to explain what happened to my sister's marriage, because it matters. My brother-in-law, I'll call him Mark, was never my favorite person, but he seemed to love my sister, and he was over the moon about becoming a father. For the first few years, everything seemed fine. They were happy. My niece was thriving. I'd visit and watch Mark play with her in the backyard, pushing her on the swing, laughing at her jokes. He seemed like a good dad. Then, about 8 months ago, my sister found out he'd been having an affair. Not just a fling, a 2-year relationship with a woman from his office. He'd been leading a double life almost since their daughter's 2nd birthday. The betrayal destroyed my sister. Not just emotionally, it was like watching someone's foundation crumble. Everything she'd believed about her life, her marriage, her family, turned out to be a lie. She stopped eating, stopped sleeping, started having panic attacks, and she started pulling away from her daughter. I noticed it at first in small ways. She'd call me to vent about Mark, and the conversations would go on for an hour without her mentioning the child once. When I'd visit, my niece would be watching TV in another room while my sister sat at the kitchen table, staring at nothing. The house was clean, the fridge was stocked, my niece was physically cared for, but there was this distance. I told myself it was just grief. Divorce is traumatic. She'd come back to herself eventually. But then Mark moved out officially. He filed for divorce. And in a move that still makes me sick to think about, he told my sister he didn't want custody. He'd take visitation, maybe, eventually, but he was moving to another state with his girlfriend. He wanted a fresh start. He abandoned his daughter like she was an inconvenient piece of furniture from his old life. My sister was devastated all over again. And something in her broke. She started saying things that worried me. That she'd never felt like a real mother. That the bond she'd expected to feel had never really formed. That she'd been performing motherhood this whole time, waiting for the love to kick in, and it never did. I tried to tell her this was depression talking. I tried to get her into therapy, on medication, anything. She went to a few appointments, got prescribed antidepressants, but she wasn't taking them consistently. She wasn't trying to get better. She was just giving up. And now here we are. A phone call at midnight. A threat to call CPS. A 4-year-old girl who has no idea her entire world is about to be ripped apart. Update 3. The conversation with my husband. The morning after my sister's call, I told my husband everything. We sat at our kitchen table with cold coffee, our son playing with blocks in the living room, and I laid it all out. His first reaction was shock. Then concern. For me, for my niece, even for my sister. My husband is a good man. He didn't immediately say no. He asked questions. He listened. But then the practical reality started to sink in. "Honey," he said carefully, "I love you. And I know this situation is horrible. But this isn't what I signed up for." He was right. When we got married, we talked about kids. We agreed on 1, maybe 2 eventually. We bought a house with 3 bedrooms, 1 for us, 1 for our son, 1 for an office/guest room. Our lives are built for a family of 3, maybe 4 someday. Not for suddenly absorbing a traumatized 4-year-old. "I'm not saying no," he continued. "I'm saying I need you to really think about this. About what it would mean. For us, for our son, for our marriage." My husband says this isn't what he signed up for. He's right. But she's 4 years old and her mother is trying to give her away like a returned purchase. That thought keeps circling in my head. Like a returned purchase. Like something that didn't work out, that didn't fit right, that can just be sent back. But she's not a purchase. She's a child. A child I gave birth to. "I'm not her mother," I said, and the words tasted like ash. My sister is her mother. Legally. In every way that matters. Except apparently it doesn't matter to your sister anymore. I didn't have an answer for that. Later that day, I drove to my sister's house alone. I needed to see my niece. I needed to see my sister. I needed to understand what was really happening before I could figure out what to do. My sister looked worse than I'd ever seen her. Gaunt, unwashed, wearing the same clothes she'd had on 3 days before when I'd last visited. The house was a mess, dishes piling up, toys scattered everywhere, a sour smell I couldn't identify. But my niece was fine. Physically fine, at least. She ran to me when I walked in, threw her arms around my legs and said, "Auntie! Auntie, I missed you." She calls me Auntie. She has no idea I'm the one who gave birth to her. If I take her now, what do I tell her when she's older? I picked her up and held her close, breathing in the little kid smell of her hair. She babbled about her toys, her favorite cartoon, her friend from preschool. A normal 4-year-old, oblivious to the hurricane about to hit her life. My sister watched from the doorway, arms crossed, face blank. "You see," she said quietly. "She loves you. She's always loved you. More than me." "That's not true." "It is. You don't see it because you're not here every day. But I see it. The way she lights up when you come over. The way she cries when you leave. She knows, somehow. On some level, she knows you're her real mother." "I'm not her mother." "You are." My sister's eyes filled with tears. "I've tried so hard. You have no idea how hard I've tried." But I look at her and I just feel nothing. Not love. Not hate. Just nothing. Like she's someone else's child I've been babysitting for 4 years. I keep waiting for the maternal instinct to kick in, and it never does. "That's depression," I said. "That's trauma. That's not reality." "Then why has it felt like this since the day she was born?" I didn't have an answer. I still don't. I gave her up so she could have a better life. Now that life is falling apart and everyone's looking at me to fix it. Update 4. The legal reality. I spent the next 2 days researching, making calls, consulting with a family law attorney my husband found through a colleague. The legal situation is complicated. I am not my niece's legal parent. Despite giving birth to her, I signed away all parental rights as part of the surrogacy agreement. My sister and brother-in-law are her legal parents. The birth certificate lists them. In the eyes of the law, I'm just her aunt. If my sister truly wants to give up custody, she has options. She could try to get Mark to take full custody, but he's made it clear he's not interested, and courts are unlikely to force a parent to take a child they don't want. She could voluntarily relinquish custody to the state, which would put my niece into foster care. Or she could pursue a private custody transfer to a family member, meaning me. But I can't just take her. Even if I wanted to, there are processes. Home studies, background checks, court approvals. It could take months. And during those months, my niece would be in limbo, living with a mother who openly admits she can't love her. Or worse, in temporary foster care while paperwork gets sorted. The attorney was blunt. If your sister is genuinely unable to care for the child and is threatening to contact CPS, you need to move fast. If the child enters the foster system, it complicates everything. It's much easier to arrange a private custody transfer between family members before that happens. "How long would it take?" I asked. "If your sister is cooperative and the father doesn't contest?" "Possibly a few months. If there are complications, longer. Either way, you need to be certain this is what you want. Once you start this process, it's very hard to stop." That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while my husband slept. Do I want this? That's the question I keep circling back to. Not can I do this, not should I do this, but do I want this? And the honest answer is, I don't know. I love my niece. I've always loved her. And yes, there's always been something extra there, a secret connection I never talked about, a pull I attributed to the surrogacy and tried to ignore. When she was a baby, I'd hold her and feel this overwhelming sense of recognition. Not ownership, not possessiveness, just recognition. Like I knew her in a way nobody else did. I told myself it was biology. Hormones. The echoes of pregnancy. I told myself it didn't mean anything because I wasn't her mother. But now everyone is telling me I need to become her mother, and I'm terrified. Not of her. Of failing her. Of resenting her. Of wrecking my marriage and damaging my son and still not being enough for this little girl who's already been failed by so many people. What if I take her and I turn out to be just like my sister? What if I can't bond with her either? What if the love I feel now isn't enough when I'm the one waking up with her nightmares and handling her tantrums and explaining why her mommy and daddy didn't want her anymore? Because that's the truth I'll have to tell her someday. Both of her parents, the ones who were supposed to love her unconditionally, the ones she's known her whole life, chose to walk away. I can dress it up however I want, but that's the reality. And no amount of "Auntie loves you" will erase that wound. Can I really do this? Is it selfish that I'm even asking? Update 5. Where things stand now, help needed. It's been a week since that first phone call. My sister has calmed down slightly. She's not threatening to call CPS immediately, but she's made it clear she hasn't changed her mind. She's agreed to give me some time to figure things out, but she's also packed a bag of my niece's things, just in case. She keeps talking about, "when you come get her," like it's already decided. Like my consent isn't necessary. My husband and I have had 4 conversations about this. The first 2 were hard. The third involved tears, mine and his. The fourth was quieter, more exhausted. "I'm not going to tell you no," he said. "If this is something you feel you have to do, I'll support you. But I need you to understand what you're asking me to accept. Our whole life changes. Our son's life changes. We don't even have a bedroom for her. We're not prepared for this. I know. And you're asking me to raise a child I didn't plan for, who isn't biologically connected to me at all, who's going to come with trauma and confusion and needs so much more than a normal kid. That's a lot to ask. I know. I'm not saying no. I'm saying I need you to acknowledge that this is huge. And I need you to be honest about whether you're doing this because you want to, or because you feel obligated." I couldn't answer him. I still can't. Because here's the truth I'm struggling with. I feel obligated. Of course I do. She's my niece, she's in crisis, and I'm the only one who can help. My sister is unwell. My brother-in-law is useless. My parents live across the country and aren't in any condition to raise a small child. If I don't step up, she goes into foster care. And I cannot let that happen. But obligation isn't the same as wanting. And I'm scared that if I take her out of obligation, she'll feel it. Kids know. They always know when they're not really wanted. Except, I do want her, I think. I've always wanted her, in a secret, shameful way I never let myself acknowledge. Every time I visited, part of me was jealous of my sister. Every time I said goodbye and drove home, part of me wished I didn't have to leave her. But wanting isn't the same as being ready. And I don't know if anyone is ever ready for something like this. My niece doesn't understand what's happening. She knows something is wrong. She's been clingy and anxious. Her preschool teacher says she's been having outbursts. My sister says she cries every night asking when Daddy's coming home. She doesn't know yet that Daddy isn't coming home. She doesn't know that Mommy is trying to give her away. She doesn't know that Auntie is actually the person who gave birth to her. She's 4 years old and her whole world is built on lies, and any decision I make will require more lies, at least for now. You're coming to live with Auntie for a while. How long until that becomes, you're living with Auntie now? How long until she asks why? How long until she's old enough to understand the truth? How do I even begin to explain? Your Mommy and Daddy loved you, but they couldn't take care of you anymore, so Auntie's going to take care of you now. That's what everyone says to say. It's what the therapists recommend. Child-appropriate language, focused on reassurance. But it's a lie. Her daddy didn't love her enough to stay. Her mommy couldn't make herself love her at all. And what am I? The woman who grew her inside my body and then gave her away because I wasn't ready, only to take her back 4 years later because everyone else failed? What kind of mother does that make me? I have a consultation with a family attorney next week to discuss next steps. My sister is willing to cooperate with a private custody transfer, which makes things easier. Mark has indicated he'll sign whatever he needs to sign. He just wants out, doesn't want any responsibility. If we move forward, I could potentially have temporary guardianship within a month or 2. Full custody could take longer. My husband and I are looking at our finances, our space, our lives. We can make it work. Technically, we can convert the office into a bedroom. We can afford another child, barely. We can juggle work and daycare and the needs of 2 kids instead of 1. But making it work isn't the same as thriving. It isn't the same as being happy. And I don't know if I'm allowed to prioritize my happiness when a 4-year-old's future hangs in the balance. So, Reddit, I need your help. I need someone to tell me what to do because I can't figure it out myself. Am I the asshole if I hesitate? If I don't immediately say yes? Is this my responsibility? I gave her up once. Am I obligated to take her back? What do I tell my husband, who married me expecting one kind of life and is now being asked to accept something completely different? What do I tell my son, who's 2 years old and doesn't understand why suddenly there's another child in our house? What do I tell my niece, when she's old enough to ask questions? When she wants to know why her mommy didn't want her? When she wants to know who I really am? What do I tell myself, if I say no and she ends up in foster care because I was too scared to step up? What do I tell myself, if I say yes and I can't handle it and I damage her even more? There's no right answer here. I know that. But I'm drowning and I don't know which way is up, and maybe if enough strangers on the internet tell me what they would do, I'll figure out what I should do. I love her. I know I love her. But is love enough? Please help. TLDR, I, 35F, was a surrogate for my sister 5 years ago, carried a baby made from her eggs and her husband's sperm. The child, 4F, has been raised by my sister as her daughter. Now my sister's marriage fell apart, she's having a mental health crisis, and she wants to give the child to me, or else surrender her to foster care. I'm married with a 2-year-old son, and my life isn't set up for this. I love my niece, but I don't know if I'm ready to be her mother. Everyone is sympathetic and everyone is broken. Help. ETA, to everyone asking, yes, my sister is in therapy. No, she's not consistent about it. Yes, I've tried to get her more help. She's resistant. She's convinced this is the right thing for everyone, that my niece will be better off with me. She keeps saying, you were always supposed to be her mother, I just got in the way. I don't think she's a monster. I think she's someone who wanted something so badly she convinced herself she could make it work, and then reality crushed her. I think she's drowning and doesn't know how to ask for help except by pushing everything away. I'm angry at her, but I also love her, and I know this is destroying her too. That doesn't make it okay. But it does make it complicated. As for my brother-in-law, I have a lot less sympathy for him. He cheated, abandoned his family, and now he's trying to pretend his daughter doesn't exist because it's inconvenient for his new life. If there's a villain in this story, it's him. But I can't make him be a father. I can't force him to care. And the courts won't either, not really. So here we are. No good choices. No clear path. Just a lot of pain and a little girl in the middle of it who deserves so much better than any of us have given her. Here's the question I can't answer. Is love enough? I carried her for 9 months. I felt her kick. I heard her first cry. Then I handed her to my sister and pretended I was just the vessel. 5 years ago, I was the selfless sister. The one who gave the greatest gift. Everyone praised me. I signed the papers, smiled in the photos, and went home to cry for 3 days. Then I got therapy, moved on, built a life. I thought that chapter was closed. Then my sister called at midnight. She's yours. Come get her. Her voice was hollow. Empty. If you don't take her, I'm calling CPS in the morning. My sister says she can't love her. How do you not love your own child? She says she's been performing motherhood for 4 years, waiting for the bond to form, and it never did. Her husband cheated, left, moved to another state. Wants a fresh start. Abandoned his daughter like inconvenient furniture. And now everyone's looking at me. She calls me auntie. She has no idea I'm the one who gave birth to her. If I take her now, what do I tell her when she's older? My husband says this isn't what he signed up for. He's right. We have a 2-year-old. A 3-bedroom house. A life built for a family of 3. But she's 4 years old and her mother is trying to give her away like a returned purchase. I gave her up so she could have a better life. Now that life is falling apart and everyone's looking at me to fix it. Do I want this? That's what I keep asking. Not can I, not should I, do I want this? I feel obligated. Of course I do. If I don't step up, she goes into foster care. But obligation isn't the same as wanting. And I'm scared that if I take her out of obligation, she'll feel it. Kids always know when they're not really wanted. Except, I do want her. I've always wanted her, in a secret, shameful way I never acknowledged. Every visit, part of me was jealous of my sister. Every goodbye, part of me wished I didn't have to leave. But wanting isn't the same as being ready. What if I take her and I turn out like my sister? What if I can't bond with her either? What if the love I feel now isn't enough when I'm explaining why her mommy and daddy didn't want her? Both her parents chose to walk away. I can dress it up however I want. That's the truth she'll carry forever. There's no right answer here. Every choice comes with damage. Say yes and my marriage strains, my son's life changes, and I become mother to a child built on lies. Say no and she enters foster care because I was too scared to step up. I love her. I know I love her. But is love enough? I don't know. I genuinely don't know.